Morning. I have here a 2026 Honda NT1100, the manual transmission version. I'm only 5'8". The bike is, when you're driving, it's no problem. But when you're stopped or trying to back up, I'm on my tippy toes. And I'm used to tall bikes, but I want to lower it a little bit. So I bought a 30mm lowering link. I have it right here. Bought this from a local bike shop. I know there's different versions of this. Africa Twin. This is actually for an Africa Twin, but apparently it fits exactly right. And we're going to try this, and then I'm going to lower the front forks by 15mm. I only know that number from watching the other video and reading the forums. Everybody says kind of like a 2-to-1 ratio. So we're going to try this. This is at a 30mm lowering link, and then I'm going to drop the forks by 15mm. The other video, it's from a gentleman in Australia, I think it was. It's good. It helps give you most of the details. And there's another one on Africa Twin, which is also very similar. But there's a few things in there, like actually moving the front fork. So I have been looking at exactly what tool I need for those. That looks like the hardest part, actually, is those front fork upper bolts, two 10mm bolts. Hard to get at it. And they're not flush. They're kind of on a tapered angle. And I've got articulating head 10mm like this, right? Just a straight up ratcheting 10mm, normal 10mm wrenches, angled ones, things like this. And I tried different combinations to see what actually fits in there. And honestly, for the lower bolt, this articulating head, ratcheting 10mm seems to be the best fit to get enough stroke. So I'm going to try this one, but I got a combination. I'm going to go through them and see what one works best, and I'll let you know what I found and what angle. I was playing around with it, and sometimes the wheel, you think you want to open the space, put the wheel this way, but it actually was the opposite. And I think I might protect the rad with a piece of cardboard or something, because as I was in there and I'm trying to see how much stroke I can get, if that wrench slips, I may hit the rad. And it's very tight, so you could easily, fall off the nut. So I'm going to put a little piece of cardboard or something on there, just tape it on just for extra protection so I don't damage the bike. Okay, first step is to remove these two 8mm bolts. Now I see the one, you can easily get a nice 8mm in there, or a short one. I have this one on a breaker bar. Fits in nice, no problem. This one behind foot peg, not much fits. So it's gonna be an actual Allen key, and I'm gonna have to use some sort of an extension on it to break that one. This is part one, and then I'll remove the kickstand out of the way because the nut has to slide through and past this kickstand. Okay? Here we go. Let's see how this works out. First of all, I'll do the one that's a little more difficult because I need extra leverage on this one. So I'm going to use a wrench and break it this way. Actually, it turned no problem. These ones you can torque, so I will retorque them to the proper specs when the time comes. Actually wasn't very tight. It's a little awkward because of the foot peg, but totally doable. First bolt out, interestingly, there's no thread lock on it. I would have thought there would have been, there is not. But I believe I'm going to add it when I put it back on. Bolt one. And then this other bolt, it's quite easy access. And now that I see that it's not that tight, I don't need the breaker bar. I'm just going to use a normal 8mm hex, 3/8 ratchet. Should come right off. Yeah, no problem. So you want to be careful here of the switch. There's a switch on the back of your kickstand so the bike knows whether the kickstand's up or down. And I saw in the other videos, which I'm just, I'm basically just copying that, what I saw with someone else. Be careful of that switch. And as I take this off, I'm gonna find a way to secure this nice and gentle. So I've tied it up with a piece of string. Hopefully you can see that. Just to secure it so it's not in the way. So now you can see that that bolt is nice and clear. Access for the lowering link is accessible now. So now it's just a case of taking the bolts off for that, which is a 14 mil and a 17 mil. So I was worried about the center stand because this bolt goes right through the center stand. But once I took the back bolt out and the link dropped, honestly, there was no pressure on the bolt at all. Like it's not there's no weight on it. So the bolt slipped right out just like it's supposed to. So far, all is good. The old link is out. I'm going to remove that bushing and reuse that in my new link. Little update on the bench. Sorry about the angle. So this is the old link. Has a bushing inside of it. Slipped out very easily. No issues at all. I re-greased it with some waterproof grease. That's good for bearings and different things like that. And it slipped in there with no effort at all. I was worried about the needle bearings, collapsing or something bad happening because I'm worried all the time doing stuff like this, but it was no issue. And then this package also came with little dust seals. So they're going to go on next. The new Zeta link came with these little pieces of plastic just for transportation to keep the bearings from falling out. So I'm going to add those into my old ones in case, just so they don't ever collapse and get banged around and then you got a whole bunch of little needle bearings you got to try and deal with. Otherwise, the dust seals went on. I added a little grease around where the dust seal goes. Just going to seat it nice. But you know what? This insulation almost looks better than the factory from Honda. Pretty happy with that. It's going to wipe off any excess and make sure everything is solid. Yeah, put it on the bike. That's first half's going very well. Okay, I have the new link in place. Just got to line it up. Honestly, this has gone exceptionally easy. I was pretty nervous because it's a brand new bike and I'm doing all this work and I'm not a mechanic. I'm actually an electrician by trade, but I mess around with vehicles and stuff like that. I have tools, but I'm not a motorcycle mechanic. And honestly, this is turning out quite easy. I'm a little more concerned about the front forks. I'll get into that later. I just got to raise this up now. So the holes line up, put the bolt in, tighten it down. Then we have to deal with the kickstand and the front fork. So I did copy the other video where you used a block and kind of lifted it that way. Seems to be working quite nice. So I thank the other guys for the other videos and their ideas. Okay, a little update. So the lowering is in. I took the load off of it, so it's just floating here now. Torquing it, not easy, and I had conflicting information. There was one video that said 25 pounds. Another, if you go to Google ChatGPT, it says 36 pounds, or no, 54 pounds. So but I just ended up going with tight. It's not cranked, so I'm stretching a bolt tight, but it's tight. And then these kickstand bolts, I put Loctite on them. They didn't have Loctite on them when I started. So I did put a little bit of Loctite on these two bolts. And when I got them tight, and I don't mean like stretching the bolt tight, just as tight as I could go without cranking on it, they ended up lining right back up to these torque marks that are already on here. I keep talking about torquing because I work in the aviation industry and everything is torqued. It's a special process. You have to follow it. So I'm always thinking about torque values. But in the end, honestly, I got a pretty good feel for it. So tight, but not cranking that extra bit where you stretch the bolt. Okay, so now we're moving on to the front forks. And by the way, this was actually quite easy. And I didn't, you know, not a bike mechanic, and I'm just kind of figuring it as I go. Watched a couple of videos. This was actually quite easy if anybody's thinking about doing it. The front forks, however, are going to be a whole other thing. I'll set the video camera up for that. There's torque values for that. It is my front fork, so I want to be sure. I'm going to do the front forks. So there is torque values for the front forks. But I gotta be honest, some of those areas you cannot get in there with a crow's foot, a torque wrench, nothing. So it's going to be all by feel. And the bolts don't sit flush and flat. They're kind of on a tapered angle because of the way the clamp is built. And it's tough to get in there. So that's going to be also by feel. Again, I don't want to crush the clamp and break it. I don't want to stretch the bolt, but I want it to be tight. So tight and then a little, and that's it. Okay, so that's the plan. Now the front forks. Tools needed. So this is a standard Allen key, kind of the regular length it comes in. I had to cut this one off so it can fit in that upper clamp. It's very tight. I've looked at how to torque it with crow's foot and different angles, and honestly, there's nothing that I could find. So it's going to be, you know, by feel with this cut off Allen wrench. Then I have a little caliper, micrometer here, set to 15 millimeters. That's the measurement I'm going to take off the bottom. So that's set. I'm going to lock that down so it's ready to go. And I'm going to do one fork at a time. So this, it's hard to see, very tight, but where my finger is, right here, that's where the 8mm Allen key goes. Very short distance. Stroke is limited, and I'm not going to take it right out. It's going to back it off so it's loose. Back off the 210 mil on the lower clamp, and then, I don't know, see how it goes to adjust and push the fork up a little bit. 15 mil. Okay. You can see that I've moved the fork up exactly 15 mil. I was using this micrometer digital caliper, but honestly, holding this and trying to move the fork to get it dialed in just right, I ended up using the tape measure and then just double checking it with the caliper because it was easier to hold and move. Now, the point on that caliper made a couple marks. So in hindsight, I should have used a little bit of tape or something to protect the metal. But that knot's tight. Now I'm just going to do the two lower 10 mils, which is really hard access, but I got a handle on it now. As suspected, these 10 mil bolts up here, hard to get. I actually got them from the back to get, and you can't torque them. I don't know what tool you would ever use. A crow's foot's never gonna fit. A very special tool maybe, but I don't have it. But there's crow's foot, sockets, all that stuff's not gonna work. So I just did it firm, you know, tight, not cranking it to stretch the bolt, but tight. Best I could do. And I ended up coming in from the back. You had to play around with different orientations and different things. I used this one with the articulating head and just a standard, wherever I put it, ratcheting 10 mil. And between the two, I was able to get it done. Okay, last is the kickstand, which I'm hoping is the easy part. So I did buy one of these African twin, let me switch my camera around, African twin adjustable side stand. How to drill a new hole in it. Why is there some shiny paint on it? Because I scratched it a little bit with the file trying to get some burrs off once I drilled the hole through. Okay, so that's next.